What is going on, everybody? It's Nothing But Skills here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you one of my favorite builds to run, and I love this build to run solo. I clear control points in about 2 to 3 minutes, and this one right here, a level 4 control point completed in 3 minutes. And in this video I'll be showing you multiple clips from this control point, and the crazy thing about it, this build wasn't even 100% complete. Yes, I was missing the backpack that had the talent to fully take advantage of this build, but when I break down this build for you, I'll show you exactly how you want to have it, because I now have that backpack. And what's amazing about this build, 1 to 2 to 3 shots, no matter what, you will drop purple, red, and gold enemies in a matter of seconds. And that's what's crazy about this build, because I don't run a lot of armor and I don't run a lot of health, and you don't need to if you're dropping enemies that fast. So that's what's great about this build, and it's one of those builds that you play at a high risk, high reward, right? You can drop enemies really quick, but you don't have a lot of armor. But if you space yourself, you'll be perfectly fine. So no matter what the enemy, no matter if it's a named enemy or just a little red bar, every enemy will drop that fast. And what's crazy about this build is I'm running this on controller. So even if you're using SVD and you're missing those shots, it's like you never missed. And we'll explain that in a second. So let's dive into this build and explain how to run it. So as you can see right here, I am running a 3-piece aces and eights with the 3-piece Araldi. Look at this surplus SVD, almost 100k base damage at 260 RPM with the 18 round mag. Now a lot of you guys are gonna ask, man, how do you have such a large size mag? Are you running a talent for that? Well, we have Lucky Shot on here, which is gonna give us magazine capacity is increased by 20%. Now what's crazy about this talent, which I love, missed shots from cover have a 100% chance to return the magazine. And that's why I said, even if you miss a shot, it's like you never missed, right? And that's what's great about this talent. Oh, Lucky Shot is a perfect talent for all of you console players. Now we do have optimized on here, which is going to give us 15% weapon handling, which increases our stability and our recoil. And then of course the third talent is everlasting. This one right here isn't something that I really need to have, so not too worried about that one. Roll whatever you want right there. Now how do we have this bad boy modded, right? How do we have this modded on this SVD? Well, let's check it out. So for the scope, I'm running a 5% damage to elite scope, but a lot of you might want to run this 45% headshot damage. A lot of times, as you guys saw in that clip, I don't like scoping in, and the 45% headshot damage one always makes you scope in. But if you're running this C79 scope, you don't have to scope in. You can just use the crosshairs, and this works with the Nemesis, so you don't have to worry about that. We are running 5-round mag. We have 10% stability on the grip, and then we're running another 5% damage to elite on the muzzle. If you feel like you're having trouble still controlling this, you could probably switch to this 10% stability and you'll be perfectly fine. Now the Nemesis, remember, the reason why we're running this is not only is it a great sniper, but it has preparation, while holster gain 15% headshot damage even while scoped in. And the crazy thing about this, when I do run the Nemesis, as this is not my primary, I can hit up to 16 million with just my own buffs, nobody else. So having that really cool advantage of hitting those high numbers when you need to, hitting up to 16 million as you guys just saw, that's something cool, right? But that's how I run this setup, the SVD, the Nemesis, and then I always run the specialized weapon that comes with the specialization, sharpshooter, which is going to give me that 5% weapon handling. Remember, extra recoil, extra stability, great for the SVD. So you don't have to really worry about stacking more stability on this weapon. Now we are running a 3-piece aces and eights, like I said, and remember the 2-piece is going to be that 10% marksman rifle damage, and then the 3-piece is going to give me full house if I get that right, increases magazine size by 100% for 10 seconds. 4 of a kind grants 30% bonus armor for 10 seconds, and then aces and eights grants the next 5 bullets 100% bonus damage. Now you do have to have the sharpshooter specialization active, which I do. So that is why you can run this solo and not have to worry about it. Remember, the 4-piece is for a group setting, 3-piece is always for a solo setting. Now the rolls on this are going to be 52% damage to elites, 22,000 health. Then we also have an offensive mod slot that's going to give me 5% marksman rifle damage and then another 1% weapon damage. So a total of extra 6% weapon damage just from the mask. Now I'm running a 3-piece Araldi, 10% accuracy, 10% headshot damage, 10% marksman rifle damage. Now I do have 15% weapon damage rolled on here, plus 17.5% critical hit chance, because I'm stacking some critical hit chance and critical hit damage on this build. A lot of you guys this is where you guys could put some headshot damage. I have Vigilance, which grants 25% weapon damage. Taking damage disables his buff for 4 seconds. Now, I do have the perfect Vigilance version of this that comes on Araldi, so if you can get that, do that one. Now, this one has what I told you guys you could do, have the headshot damage if you want. Remember, perfect Vigilance gives you an additional 5% weapon damage on your build. So it just really depends on what you want to run with. If I could get the same rolls on a perfect Vigilance, then I would run it like this. And remember, the reason I do have crit chance on there is because I'm stacking almost 45% crit chance on this build, and you'll see in just a second. Now, the mods I'm running is a 6% marksman rifle offensive mod with a 1% weapon damage, so almost 7% right there. And then we do have a defensive system mending, which is going to give us total armor and armor. If we go into our next piece, it's going to be the holster. So we have another aces and eights holster, so it helps us get that 3-piece, right? We have 11% critical hit damage, 16% critical hit chance, and then we have 2 offensive mod slot that's going to give me 4% marksman rifle damage, 2% weapon damage, and then another one that gives me 5% marksman rifle damage, 1% weapon damage. So an extra 12% marksman rifle damage on this build, well, weapon damage. Now, if we go into the knee pads, we're stacking more critical hit chance, so that 7% critical hit chance plus an offensive mod slot, more marksman rifle damage, more weapon damage, and then total armor and armor. So an additional 6% weapon damage right here with the knee pads for aces and eights. We dive into our next piece of Araldi, which is going to be the gloves, right? So the gloves are going to give us 11% marksman rifle damage, and then I'm running a talent some of you might not agree with, but since I'm running a crit chance, crit damage SVD build, Obliterate pairs up perfectly. Depleting an enemy's armor grants 30% critical hit damage for 15 seconds. Now, this does require 4 or more offensive, and some of you guys, if you aren't running critical hit chance on the chest piece, and you're not stacking critical hit chance, well, this is where you guys could actually put precise and get 15% headshot damage. Or if you want to do a status effect, running wicked would be another way for you to gain some more damage. But remember, you do have to run some type of status effect on there, because wicked, if you apply a status effect, you get that 15% weapon damage for 20 seconds. But let's dive into our final piece, the backpack. Now, the backpack is an Araldi backpack with weapon damage, critical hit damage. This is where I would like to have critical hit chance so I can max out my critical hit chance on this build, and I'd rather sacrifice that 5% critical hit damage. It has hard hitting, so I get that 25% damage to elites. It has spark, and I am using a talent that is I am using a skill that will activate this. Remember, spark damaging enemies with skills or explosives grant 15% weapon damage for 15 seconds. That's 9 or more offensive. I'm running 14 offensive, so we're perfectly fine. And it does have a utility mod on here. Now, you can get an Araldi backpack with an offensive mod, so if I get the perfect backpack, this is where I can add additional 6% weapon damage, 6 to 7% extra weapon damage on the mod, right? But like I said, if I could get a high crit chance rolled on here, then that would allow me to put some weapon damage on my chest piece. Sorry, not weapon damage, but headshot damage. And I have some really nice headshot damage rolls for my chest piece. So if I could get something like this, that I could roll. This one right here is an old backpack, so it doesn't allow me to roll spark onto it. So I have to farm something like this, get a high crit chance roll to drop on Araldi, roll over some weapon damage, and then hopefully have hard hitting and spark on there, plus the offensive mod slot. This build will hit that much harder. And then that's where I could put probably like 22% headshot damage on the chest piece. If we jump right into the stats, you're going to see we have 40% critical hit chance, 41% critical hit damage. You remember, that's without the 30% from Obliterate. And then we have 87% damage to elites. And that's why this build hits so hard, because of the critical hit chance, critical hit damage, your damage to elites, plus your headshot damage. But yeah, this is my build right here. I do run the striker drone because the striker drone is going to allow spark to activate to give me that extra weapon damage. And it also puts out a little bit of damage. Now, the great thing about the sharpshooter specialization is you'll always be able to use the default battery slot mods like the duration 80% and then the skill haste 80%, which is great since you're not going to be running a lot of skill power with this build. Of course, for the second skill, I run the Reviver Hive. If I'm going to run this solo, I don't want to have to take the chance of having to die, respawn, and everything. So Reviver Hive is like my backup plan. In case worst case comes down and I can't drop the enemy before they drop me, Reviver Hive is great for that. But yeah, this is my build. This is the build that I've been running with. I love it. I feel like with Lucky Shot, as long as I'm in cover, I never really don't have enough bullets to drop enemies, right? Like 2 to 3 shots, even body shots, put in the work. And I feel that having that crit chance, crit damage is amazing for when you don't get those headshots, right? But of course, this build does work a lot better if you can land those headshots because you have a lot of headshot damage stacked on here. But since I don't have headshot damage stacked on this build, the crit chance crit damage works really good, especially for a lot of you console players. But for you PC guys who just nail those headshots, stacking more headshot damage might be the way to go. Like I said, ideally what I would like to do is get a really high crit chance roll on the backpack and then roll a really high headshot damage on the chest piece, and that's how I would set up that build. If you guys have any questions on this, if you guys have any tweaks, let me know in the comment section. I appreciate all the support you guys always show me on the Division 2 videos. If you guys like the video, leaving a thumbs up is the best way to show that support. But let's wrap up this video. Until the next Division 2 video, nothing but skills is out.